Hello everybody, it's me Scoop and it's Christmas time. That was really cringy, but last year I reviewed my favorite Christmas special, Prep and Landing, and that's my most viewed review ever. That was really hard to say, actually. It's coming up on 2,000 views. Really difficult to say. So thank you so much for that support, and I really appreciate it. And now I'm here to talk about a very different style of Christmas movie, the movie from 2015, Krampus. Now the reason I had to specify the movie from 2015 is because there are actually a lot of Krampus movies, believe it or not. There are several of them. Countless, even, dare I say. And while most of them are pretty crappy B-movies, this one actually has a pretty well-known cast and got a pretty wide release. But like most PG-13 horror movies, it was actually pretty quickly forgotten. So I'm here to bring it back up again, much like Prep and Landing. This movie definitely does deserve to be remembered as this weird anti-Christmas movie because it kind of takes a lot of tropes from Christmas movies and sort of flips them on their head, and also has a weirdly confusing sort of anti-Christmas message. But yeah, usually I would kind of break down the entire movie and explain scene by scene my thoughts on it and what happens, but it's currently midnight of December 24th, so it just became December 24th, and I want to get this out for hopefully Christmas Eve, or at least tomorrow, I guess technically, on Christmas Day. So instead, I'm going to be running through each character and sort of some of the main plot points with them, and then talk about the big finale because I have a lot to say on it. So let's run it through. Actually, before we talk about the characters, I should probably explain the plot a little bit. So if you've never seen this movie, essentially, family Christmas dinner. So you have the main family of four, the mom, the dad, the older sister, and the younger brother. The younger brother, big Santa guy, he's wearing the onesie, he wants to watch Charlie Brown, and he writes a beautiful letter to Santa. And then the super Republican annoying cousins come over, bully him about liking Santa, so he rips up the letter, throws it out the window, and then a giant snowstorm comes, and all the power goes out, and the shadow of Saint Nicholas, Krampus, comes to collect. I did do that accent because the grandma character who explains a lot does that accent, so
Krampus.
Yeah, when she does it, it's cool. When I do it, it's just cringy, like most things when I do them. So essentially, the point of this movie is that as Krampus, the shadow of Saint Nicholas, the anti-Santa Claus, if you will, is attacking, he's taking famous Christmas stuff and turning them into monsters.
Nothing bad's gonna happen on Christmas.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, and honestly, the character arcs and plot progression aren't very complicated, so let's just run it through. So first of all, we're going to talk about the mom and her sister Linda. The mom is played by Toni Collette, who is currently working on collecting the Infinity Stones of moms in horror movies, and the sister is also an actress who is there. So the mom's name is Sarah, and she's a bit neurotic and a total perfectionist, and a lot of the family kind of craps on her for it. She spends all this time getting ready for Christmas dinner, and no one really appreciates it, which, I mean, Sarah is definitely in the right. Like, people should definitely appreciate if she's cooking creme brulee for dessert, instead of, saying that, like, why is she putting in so much work for Christmas dinner? Like, just enjoy the food, guys. Come on now. So yeah, the cousins visiting, like I said, are from her sister Linda, and the two of them have a bit of a sibling rivalry because Sarah is such a perfectionist, and Linda is a very, devil-may-care attitude about life. Yeah, besides that, there's not a whole lot going on. There's this weird thing where they have a tender moment as Linda realizes Sarah has the angel that their mom used to put on top of the Christmas tree, and then the angel gets Krampusified and starts attacking them. And then Toni Collette blows the angel up with a shotgun. I think this is supposed to represent the end of their sibling rivalry. That's sort of how it feels, but it's not really addressed in any major way. It's just kind of giving the energy of symbolism, if that makes sense. But yeah, okay. Honestly, overall, the character arcs in this movie are pretty non-existent, so don't expect a whole lot out of it. And that's definitely the movie's biggest flaw. But yeah, we're going to note whatever's notable here. So yeah, Toni Collette is really just kind of the mom of the movie. She doesn't really take care of her children a lot, to be honest. But she's there to be like an adult and help take charge of situations a lot. And the same goes for her sister Linda, who is a lot more of the mom archetype for the three cousin children, because she's the one who's kind of screaming and grabbing the kids when monsters are attacking most of the time. Oh, also, the angel that attacks them tries to hang Toni Collette, which is just kind of funny. Krampus ran so Hereditary could fly. So next we have the dad, Adam Scott, as Tom, and he also doesn't really have a whole lot going on. He's got a little bit of beef with Uncle Howard, because Uncle Howard is the big gun-toting Republican uncle, and Tom is the wealthy former Eagle Scout member that Howie makes fun of him for at the Christmas dinner.
Army, Marines.
Said Eagle Scouts.
Eagle Scouts.
Yeah, honestly, Adam Scott really doesn't have a whole lot to work with here. Generally, Adam Scott is kind of someone who doesn't really do a notable job, but he's not doing a bad job. He kind of just fits the role just fine. Like, he's always kind of there. He really only has one emotional scene where his mom, the grandma, is probably about to die, so he starts banging on the door and, screaming and stuff, where he's actually doing a pretty good job, but like I said, really overall not a whole lot to work with. Yeah, that's really all I got. But next we have Max's sister, who's just kind of the stereotypical bitchy older sister, and is also only in like 3 scenes of the movie, and her name is Beth. Who names their kid Beth in this modern age? What the hell? So yeah, like I said, bitchy older sister who also has a boyfriend. So she's annoyed that the cousins are coming over, and of course gets the heck out of Dodge the first second she can by saying she's running over to her boyfriend's house after the power goes out just to make sure he's okay. And, of course, she never returns. On her way there, she gets Krampused. This is the first real horror scene of the movie, and it's actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it's green screened. I think they actually built a set, or at least like a painting of a set in the background. It looks pretty good either way. And essentially she's walking, and you see kind of off in the distance on the rooftops the shadow of Krampus. He's just this big, hunched over, horned silhouette, and it actually looks pretty creepy. And then he just launches himself off the rooftops, and starts chasing after her. And yeah, it's a pretty, heart-pounding, palpitating, suspenseful scene. I don't know why I said it like that, but yeah. So Beth ends up hiding under a DHL delivery truck. If you're wondering why that's there, it's because a DHL delivery guy delivered presents earlier that day after the giant Krampus snowstorm that knocked out all the electricity blew in. And then there was also a little basket there with a bunch of more Christmas presents and like a Santa sack. And the DHL guy says those are from...
must be from the Boys in Brown.
Who the fuck calls UPS the Boys in Brown? Anyway, that went a little off topic, but she's hiding under the DHL delivery truck, sponsored by DHL, and they do that cliche thing where the person's hiding under the thing, and then they see the footsteps right outside of the big monster, and then the monster disappears, and you're like, the monster's gonna pop up behind her and like pull her out or something, right? Actually, no. We get this pretty cool camera movement pan over to the side, and we see he left behind a little jack-in-the-box, I think is what those things were called. I don't know, I never played with them as a kid because they're creepy as hell. But anyway, it starts unwinding itself, it's got the spooky music going, and then something pops out very slowly, actually. It's a pretty good suspenseful scene, like I said. You don't really see what happens, you just hear this horrifying shriek, which is always scarier than seeing a monster eat someone, in my opinion, and I think that's why Paranormal Activity works so well, but that is very off topic, and we'll talk about that at another time, possibly. So yeah, that's the end of Beth. She's basically just annoyed at them at Christmas dinner, and then she's on the phone with her boyfriend for 30 seconds, and then she gets Krampused, so that's cool. So next up, we have the 3 cousins, who I'm just going to cover at the same time. You have Stevie, Howie Jr., and the other one, who is also there, none of whom can act particularly well, if we're being fair.
Do you think they took Howie because of the time he painted the cats? I don't know, Jordan.
So yeah, being the kids of good old Republican Uncle Howard, the 2 older girls, Stevie and the other one, are very tomboyish. They're big into football and Mountain Dew and wrestling, and they wear jackets and hats inside, stuff like that, real man shit.
They're just a little cranky because the Steelers lost, so...
The 3 of them are pretty much there for like cannon fodder and also just to bully Max into ripping up his letter. Basically what happens is they sit down for their nice Christmas dinner, and right when they walk in the door just before dinner, they see Max has a little Santa note in his pocket, so they're like, I guess we gotta steal that then and read it out loud at the table like normal cousins. Alright, we get it. There's family quarreling, and then there's this. This is just brutal. Max's letter is just all the tea about the family, and Stevie just reads the whole thing out at the table, and no one steps in. Everyone's just like, hey, stop. That's about the extent of it. No one cares. Almost everyone thinks Max is in the wrong for freaking out and tackling her after she does that, so then that's why Max runs up to his room and rips up the letter, but Max is definitely right in this scenario. Anyway, Howie Jr. is the first one to go. At night, after everyone falls asleep, after, the snowstorm started and they boarded up the house, Howie wakes up because the fire goes out, and he sees a chain come down with a gingerbread man on the end. So he walks up, takes a nice boy out of the gingerbread man, and then the gingerbread man comes alive and wraps himself around him and starts pulling him up the chimney. You're probably wondering, why would this kid, who is probably like middle school aged, see this thing, knowing something sus is going on outside, take a bite out of it, And just in general, we don't even have to go any further. Why would he see this thing come down, instead of waking anyone up because they're all sleeping in the living room, he takes a bite out of it? Well, how do I put this? It seems like Howie Jr. is kind of,
retarded.
Oh boy, Rick, I don't think you're allowed to say that word,
Morty, I'm not disparaging the differently abled. I'm stating the fact that if I had used this microscope, it would have made me mentally retarded.
Okay, yeah, but I don't think it's about logic, Rick. I think the word has just become a symbolic issue for powerful groups that feel like they're doing the right thing.
Well, that's retarded.
So the scene of him getting dragged up the chimney is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It's another one of these, like, actually fairly stressful and interesting scenes. I actually stopped taking notes because I got pretty invested in it, even though I've already seen this movie like 5 times. And so, in the end, he gets yoinked up the chimney, and despite everyone grabbing hold to try to pull him back down, they start a fire, and they lose grip of him, and he gets taken away. So then the other one, whose name I don't know, and the actress I don't know because she has like 4 lines in the movie, all of which she delivers terribly, has to go pee. So her and Stevie go upstairs because another character clogged the toilet downstairs. I don't know, it doesn't really matter. And this gigantic clown monster eats her. Once again, this clown monster actually does look pretty good. Most of the creature designs in this movie are very well done. I'm pretty sure they did almost all of them practically. Like, they are probably people in suits or like puppets that sort of got touched up with CGI, stuff like that. The movie actually looks pretty good overall, which I think is pretty important to note. So yeah, she gets eaten by this gigantic clown thing. Stevie manages to escape, and then Max kills the dog because he sends the dog to go fight the clown in the air vents. So that goes about as well as you might expect.
Max, what are you doing?
Go get him, girl.
10 seconds later.
Rosie.
And then meanwhile, all the adults are distracted from trying to save her because all those Christmas presents that were left by the boys around were actually left by Krampus, and there are a bunch of monsters hiding out. So all the monsters break out of their presents and start attacking everyone. This includes the angel, a little bear character, an evil robot character. I think that's about it. There might be like one other thing in there somewhere, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, all the adults are stuck fighting off those while the clown escapes into the vents. And eventually Stevie gets taken, but we're going to talk about her at the end because she actually gets a pretty big send-off. So she'll just be included in the whole grand finale discussion. So yeah, like I said, these characters don't really contribute a whole lot and are mostly just there for cannon fodder. Alright, so next we get to Uncle Howie, or Howard, whichever one you want to call him. I'll probably flip-flop a little bit, but that's alright. He's probably the most memorable character of the movie, just because David Koechner gives, generally memorable performances. He's the comic relief, but he's also actually actively involved in the plot a lot of the time. There's another comic relief character, Great Aunt Dorothy, but she is purely comic relief, like she literally has nothing going on, so we're gonna skip right over her. Also, sorry Dave Koechner, no matter how many jokes and how much screen time you get, you are not making anything funnier than this scene. I did not edit that. That is the sound effect that they used, and they use it in the movie several times. Anyway, like I keep saying, he's the tough gun-toting Republican uncle, and if you're wondering how the characters have guns, because why would this wealthy suburban family just have a shotgun and a handgun in their house? It's because they pulled them out of his truck before it got smushed.
Lucinda!
So yeah, Howie and Tom grab the guns out of his truck, and they go looking for Beth pretty early on in the movie, right after Beth goes missing around nightfall. And we actually get another pretty bog standard, but also pretty well done scene of the two of them investigating the boyfriend's house. And while I do like this scene, I think it reveals a little bit too much about how Krampus operates. Essentially, we see that atop of the chimney, they think that some sort of pipe must have exploded or something, but obviously we know Krampus is coming down the chimney just because he's reverse Santa Claus, so he's probably coming down the chimney to kill you. And also Omi, the grandma, is very big on lighting the fire. She keeps hinting that they need to keep the fire going, so that just kind of makes sense. You see a gingerbread man stabbed into the freezer. It's not even in the background. They fully walk over to it, and they're like, huh, that is spooky. So, the gingerbread man are probably going to come alive and attack them if, Christmas-related items are all horror movie monsters now. And we see that all of the windows and doors are smashed in, which eventually is how the elves break in, leading into the final fight. So yeah, I like the scene, but it gives away a little too much in my opinion. So we actually do see the gingerbread men attack later in the movie. They attack Uncle Howie, and this is honestly probably my favorite scene of the movie. It's not scary, it's more just silly, campy, and fun. But I feel like it just works really well. And I also think that the new David Harbour movie Silent Night actually sort of used this scene as a basis and sort of built a beautiful package around that most people seem to have really enjoyed. As you might expect from a movie where they board up the windows and the doors and all that, Howie's the one who gets the inevitable point the gun at the other guy scene, and it's just not earned at all. Basically, when Howie Jr. gets sucked up the chimney, Howie is like, "Oh, I'm taking my shotgun, I'm busting open the door, and I'm getting my boy back." But then Tom is like, "Wait, no, you cannot go out there. Bad idea, you're gonna endanger all of us." So Howie points the shotgun at him and is like, "You know, I was finally starting to like you."
Don't, Tommy!
Whoa! Whoa!
I'm starting to like you. I am.
What? This is like halfway through the movie. Like, we have not built up enough to this at all. Like, take Shaun of the Dead, for example. This is probably the best guy pointing gun at other guy scene in one of these board up the windows movies. Look how much tension had to build up before we got to that moment. It was incredible. And here it's like, "I'm getting my boy back, don't you dare stand in my way, buckaroo." Also, Uncle Howie goes out in a really weird way in this movie. Like, look at this.
Twisted fairy tale horse shit!
Oh, great!
Bro, the fuck was your plan there? What were you even trying to do? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Okay, getting towards the end of our character list. Next we have Omi, Max's grandma, and Tom's mother. Omi is easily the best character in this movie. She's sort of the nice, sweet grandma who loves Christmas, but also the expository character, and she serves both these purposes beautifully. So after Howie Jr. is taken up the chimney and Toni Collette's character sees that the living gingerbread man is a living gingerbread man and the supernatural secret of what's going on is basically out there, Omi decides to explain her previous run-in with Krampus when she was a child, and this scene slaps, bro. I mean, if you cut this scene out of the movie, you would have like an Oscar-worthy 2 or 3 minute short film right here. Like, this is phenomenal stuff. Essentially what happened was when Omi was a child living through probably like the war or something, there wasn't a whole lot of food. It was really just tough times overall, and it was a terrible winter, and everyone was really angry, and there was zero Christmas spirit. And so she also lost her Christmas spirit, and she wished her family would just go away. And she got her wish. Krampus came and attacked her family, but left her as a reminder of what happens when the Christmas spirit is lost, and overall what happens when the world just gives up on kindness. Honestly, I didn't even do that scene justice by describing it. If you can, just go look it up on YouTube and watch it. It is beautifully animated. The voiceover by Omi and her actress are very well done, and it's just a really great scene, and it does the entire message of the movie 10 times better than the movie does as a whole. I don't know what happened, where it seems like almost all of the work went into just this little chunk of the movie, and the rest of the movie was like no fucks given about the message and the themes and the character arcs and all that. I'm still glad we got it, I guess. And towards the end of the movie, once everything's going to hell in the final showdown, Krampus comes down the chimney. It's actually a pretty badass intro. Like, this scene goes hard, and she finally faces him down once and for all to buy her family some time. But obviously, the buying them some time doesn't really matter because it's a horror movie, so everyone gets taken in the end. Also, like I said, she's the one watching the fire the whole time. And, like, look at this shit. She definitely burned her face off in this scene. Like, okay, come on, girl. The fire's lit. Do you really have to look up there right now? Finally, we get to who is probably the protagonist of the movie, although the fact that it's unclear definitely says everything you need to know about Krampus. The child, Max. The problem with Max is that he's a child in a horror movie. So he kind of has to take a back seat through most of the movie. He's essentially there for the setup to rip up the letter and summon El Cramp Man, and then at the end to be like, "No, I've learned my lesson, Krampus, give me my family back, bro, please." So his lesson is very confusing because, like I said, his family loses the Christmas spirit just like Omi, and then he rips up the letter because he loses the Christmas spirit too, and then that's what summons Krampus. So you would think that his lesson is supposed to be that he should actually appreciate his family. But the problem is, he's definitely in the right by doing this, like I said before. So it should probably be the other way, that his family should learn to appreciate him a bit more, I think. And then on top of that, like, this makes the entire movie his punishment, which we just covered doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because he's in the right. And then on top of that, there's like a couple of moments here and there because while the horror stuff is going on, Max has basically nothing to do, so these are really his only moments. He kind of like peeks his head out and it seems like he's supposed to be learning to be more mature and more of an adult, but that also really contradicts the theme about like keeping up the Christmas spirit and Christmas being all about like kindness and sharing the love, and how Max is like naivete, I think is the proper word, is actually a good thing. Those definitely don't be meshing at all. I don't know, it's really weird and is definitely the worst part of this movie. And yeah, I'm assuming the reason this movie is forgotten because as fun as it is, and as good of a watch as it is, its message really is almost non-existent and pretty confusing. Okay, so now that we've finally covered every single character, it took a little bit longer than I was expecting, we're going to talk about the big grand finale, because the grand finale of any horror movie is probably the most important part. It's usually the most exciting, and I think the ending of any story is probably the most important part. So yeah, once the clown falls through the ceiling and the elves break in the windows, it feels like the entire movie just gave up. The actors, the writers, even the costume designer, like everyone just gave up here. It's really, really weird to see such a sharp drop in quality in a movie out of nowhere. So essentially, they kill off pretty much everyone left, which is most of the characters within like 2 or 3 minutes. We already covered Howard and Aunt Dorothy just getting yoinked out the window. And then the rest of the characters run outside and get dragged away by the snow monster, except for Omi, Stevie, and Max. Like we talked about, Omi faces down Krampus, and that's how she gets taken out. And Tom has this final stand against whatever's in the snow to buy the rest of the family more time, who at this point is just Mom, Aunt Linda, Max, and Stevie, because they're trying to get to this snow plow that they found to try to, plow their way through the snow, as you might imagine, and get somewhere safe like a police station or a hospital. And his final words to Max are, "Love you, buddy."
I love you, buddy. Go! Now, go!
Like, come on, you guys couldn't have come up with anything better than "love you, buddy." He didn't even say, like, "Max, I love you so much. Go on without me." Like, it's literally, "Love you, buddy." So yeah, he gets taken out by the snow monster, and then the two moms are putting both their kids in the snowplow, and then the two moms are like, "Oh no, we're sisters. I love you." And then Aunt Linda gets dragged away, and then Toni Collette just kind of stands there looking at Max through the window, and she's like, "Max, I love you so much." But what? Just get in the car. What are you doing? The snow monster's distracted with your sister. If she's gonna, basically sacrifice herself for you, at least get in the car. Don't just stand there. Come on, buddy. What are you doing? So, yeah, Toni Collette gets dragged away, and then it's just Max and Stevie left. And we get, like, one of the worst lines I think I've ever heard in any movie, ever.
I don't even know how to drive a stick! We have a hybrid!
Bro, you're like 10 years old. You don't know how to drive at all. What are you talking about? So, because Max doesn't know how to drive stick, because they have a Prius, they get attacked by the elves again, and Stevie starts getting dragged away, and Max gets left with the little Krampus bell ball thingamabobber. But Max decides, you know what? Screw it. I'm not gonna be like Omi. I'm not gonna be left as a reminder. I'm going after them, and I'm getting my family back. So, even though he hasn't really learned anything, like, the family have still been kind of grumpy and mean to each other most of the time, and Max hasn't really had a whole lot going on since he ripped up that letter, he decides he's chasing after his family. So he goes to get them, and he throws the thing back at Krampus, and he's like, "Krampus, I take back my wish, give me back my family." And the scene where we really get a good look at Krampus for the first time is actually when he comes down the chimney and, faces down Omi, but his face is still covered by the hood. Like, it's a lot of shadows, but he still looks pretty badass. In this scene, there's a lot of fire and stuff going on, and the elves are running around everywhere, and we actually just get a full-on close-up of his face, and it looks horrible. Like, you would imagine if they have all these really good costumes and puppets and stuff for the smaller monsters, the big main man himself would be the best-looking one, but no. He has this really weird mask, and I can't tell if it's supposed to be his actual face or if he's supposed to be wearing a mask. It's a little confusing because it looks so fake. I feel like it has to be a mask, but at the same time, like, why would he be wearing that as a mask? Like, I don't know. Although his eyes do look pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. That part was pretty well done, but the mask face thing, very weird, very confusing, very not creepy, just kind of silly. So Krampus goes up to Max, and he uses his, like, 10-inch long coke finger to wipe away Max's tear, and it almost seems like he's gonna get his wish, and Max is gonna get his family back. But Krampus is just feeling a little silly, a little goofy, so he just yells, "Lamau, JK," throws Stevie in the hellhole, and he throws Max in the hellhole. Oh wait, I kind of skipped that. Yeah, when Max threw the little ball back, a portal to hell opened up through the snow. Why Krampus, as the opposite of Santa, who lives in the North Pole, would have hell as his home? I don't know. He should probably live in the South Pole with the penguins and shit, but I don't know. I'm not a Christmas-ologist. So yeah, Max gets thrown into hell, and then he wakes up in his bedroom, and it's actually Christmas morning, and the whole thing was a dream. Now, everyone loves the dream cop-out, of course. So Max goes downstairs, and his whole family is being all nice and friendly, and they're enjoying their lovely Christmas morning, and then you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, if the whole thing was a dream, and none of them lived through it, or even remember the dream at all, why are they all being so nice and friendly? Like, okay, yeah, sure, Max being like, oh, my family, I love you guys, I'm so happy to have you back. That makes sense. But why is the family being all nice and friendly? They didn't learn anything. So they start unwrapping presents, Max unwraps his present, and it's the Krampus ball. And then suddenly, it seems like everyone starts remembering like the previous 2 days of events and everything that happened with Krampus and all that, which is a little weird, a little confusing. And then if that wasn't confusing enough, we zoom out and it turns out the house is actually in a snow globe on Krampus's shelf in his hell house or whatever you want to call it. And then there's like countless other snow globes on the shelves and the camera just keeps panning out. And then we get a big jump scare from all the monsters just jump scaring the camera for some reason. So I guess it's like a fourth wall break. And then roll credits. Huh? So really, I have two main problems with this movie. While it is a really fun watch, I've said over and over again that the message with Max and just the general character arcs don't really make any sense. The Omi short film, like right smack in the middle, has a beautiful message about even if everyone else in the world is being angry and grumpy, you're the one who has to spread kindness, and that kindness can sort of wrinkle out and affect other people. And if you let that kindness get extinguished, who knows who's going to be left to keep spreading it, right? That's a really cool message. I really enjoy that. The message with Max is like, you should grow up and be more mature, but you should also take care of like your precious childhood memories and spread kindness. And even if your family sucks, you should love them, because whatever you say that's bad, you can't take back about them, even if like you're totally in the right. It just doesn't work well. I think you get what I'm saying. It just doesn't work. And then on top of that, the world building of Krampus doesn't make any sense. The DHL delivery guy, like, how did he get there? What I assumed was that pretty much the entire thing took place in the snow globe. Like, you see the storm basically form over their house once Max rips up his letter. So I assumed when that storm was forming, it almost put them in like a snow globe pocket dimension thing, kind of, where like, yeah, they could like leave the house, which as you see isn't, you know, the streets and stuff aren't part of the snow globe, but like they're still kind of in the snow globe, if that makes sense. But no, like they're actually in the real world because there's like abandoned snowplows and the dead DHL delivery guy and stuff. So then what happens to the other houses on the street? Are Beth's boyfriend's entire family, like, actually dead? Like, when the storm clears, is the whole town gonna be missing? How does this work? What are the physics? And also, if there are so many other snow globes, I feel like the police would be a little more wary of all these entire families who get together for Christmas going missing on Christmas morning. Feel like that's something to look into, you know? If there's, like, 70,000 freaking snow globes of people going missing on Christmas. So yeah, thinking about the ending of this movie for too long will definitely hurt your brain a little bit there. Also, what does the ending actually mean for the characters? Because like they're technically still alive, so like what are they like repeating Christmas morning the whole time? Like what are they doing in this? Are they just trapped in there for all eternity, forced to live out a beautiful Christmas morning? Yeah, I guess that would get old, but I mean there's worse things to be stuck in an infinite loop of, right? At least you actually have your entire family, you're not in solitary. So in the end, what do I really think about Krampus? Well, if you're someone like me who enjoys the Christmas spirit but also enjoys a good horror movie, yeah, sure, it's a nice fun watch if you don't think about it too hard. Maybe check it out. But if you're really looking for something for like that nice, lovely Christmas spirit, you're not going to get it here, nor are you going to get a very good movie overall to just really try to think about and pick apart the themes of, as you have seen. So yeah, Krampus gets like a solid 5 out of 10. This is the pinnacle of 5 out of 10 to me. It's just like, it's fun, it's just not actually all that good. So thank you all very much for watching, and have a happy holiday. And remember, love your family even when they're mean to you, or Krampus is gonna come put you in a snow globe. Keep it crispy.